Today we wrap up our series for Lent called Busy, talking about the ways in which we all lead lives that are way too busy and how to find ways to plug in to more meaningful things, even if it means being a little less busy. I got to confess, today is probably my least favorite sermon in all the bunch that we've done, because today we talk about something that I'm really terrible at: resting. Today we talk about the importance of rest in our lives. I confessed a few weeks ago that I'm a type A personality, and I've worked since I was 15 years old, and I was just kind of raised to find a lot of value in being productive and working and that kind of thing. And so I really enjoy it. I love being your pastor, and so it really gives me a lot of life to work. One of you took note of my confession and gifted me with a wonderful book called Rest, because you picked up on the fact that I probably need some help understanding to slow down. It's interesting what this book actually said. It said something, I know this is true, I've never thought of it this way. Work and rest, the author says, should be equal partners. Too often we tend to think of work as the dominant partner and rest as this thing we fit in, when we have time, right? When there's time, I'll rest. When I have a little time, I'll slow down. But no, the author actually says if they're equal partners, something amazing actually happens. If you actually are intentional about your rest, your work becomes more productive. And if you slow down with your work, your rest will give you more life. You see this like two hands that go together, work and rest. Still not very good at it. I'm reading the book still. Maybe I'll be better at it once I finish the book. I don't know. How many of you are bad at, you don't have to raise hands, but think about it. How many of you are bad at taking a rest? Some of us are better at it than others. I envy you people. My wife's amazing. She could take a nap any time of the day that she really wanted to. She's good at that. It helps working night shift for many years. You know how to just do that. I have so much nervous energy, it's hard to slow down and take a nap for rest, right? Some of us are better at it than others. There's all kinds of studies out there about the benefits of a work-rest balance, that's out there. I read one that was interesting. It was a survey done of the biggest regrets we have at the end of our life. That's a pretty heavy survey to think about, right? The biggest regrets people have at the end of their life. And they had 5 that emerged as some of the most common. One of them, for example, was, I wish that I had really just been myself, not what others expected me to be. You ever feel that way? Another one was, I wish that I had expressed myself more openly, not kept everything so bottled up inside, You ever felt that way? It was the last one that got me, though, the 5th one on the list. I wish that I hadn't worked so hard. Now that kind of hits me in the gut because I love work. I told you that. I find a lot of value in work and being productive, a lot of meaning in it. But what this regret actually brings to light is there's good value productivity type of work, and then there's this unhealthy level that you end up missing out on really important things in life when you give in too much to work. Think about it. We're all in different ages and stages of life, right? How many of us can admit, don't raise your hand, that we struggle with being distracted from the things and people that matter most in our life? Maybe it's been years of you worked and you look back on your life and say, I wished I'd spent more time with my family, my kids, whoever it is. Or maybe you're at a different end of life and you say, I wish I could just slow down long enough to really value this time that, my kids they're little for only so long and I wish I could value that more. We all feel that way, don't we? Rest is a priority we have to make in our life. You don't accidentally rest. You do, but it's actually not by accident. We're finite human beings, even though we pretend we're not. And you're either going to rest by choice or you're going to rest because something forces you to. A health issue comes up, something. There's that old saying, you work yourself into an early grave. You ever heard that? There is a level of unhealthiness that either you're going to choose to slow down and take rest from time to time, or your body's going to choose it for you. And it's interesting about priorities too. We actually have a lot more time than we think we do. Maybe you're like me and you say, I don't have time to rest this week. Well, actually you do. I'm not going to do the math again. Those of you who were here last week know I don't know how to calculate minutes and hours correctly. But you have a fixed number of minutes and hours in a week. You can do the math yourself. You can make time, it turns out, for things that you maybe never imagined. I read another article about they were studying these people in time management, and you had to log everything that you did in the course of a week. And so, you wrote it down, and hours doing this and hours doing that and whatever it is. Well, it just so happened that one of the women who was in the study, her hot water heater busted that week. And so, of course, she's logging everything she's doing and all this other stuff. So she writes down, it took her 7 hours in the course of a week to deal with assessing the damage and getting this hot water heater repaired and replaced. 7 hours she gave up. But here's the moral of the story. She came back to the study and said, it took 7 hours out of my week, but I don't feel like I missed anything. She realized when she actually wrote down how she spent her time that you got time for a crisis. You got a time for what's important if you make time for it. Prioritize what's important in your life. And she realized she probably wasted a lot more time than she really thought she did. She had 7 hours she could spend on it and not miss a beat. It's amazing. I thought also this week about the expectations, the stereotypes that are on us about work. Like you don't have value in life unless, how are you doing? Oh, work. I'm so tired. It's like we feel like we have to be, we're compelled to admit just how much that we work more than the next person. I thought about the fact there are actually gender stereotypes that we struggle with when it comes to work. You ever thought about that? Now remember, these are stereotypes. They're not necessarily truths. There are always exceptions, but I'm going to share just a couple stereotypes and maybe you relate. There's a stereotype around men. Thankfully, this is kind of going away slowly as society progresses. But men are supposed to be providers, and it's okay for them to work 800 hours a week. And you're taking care of your family if you work more than anybody else. You're not expected to be the nurturing one at home. You're almost given a free pass from quality time with family. You're the worker. You're the male. That's the stereotype. Women have an even worse stereotype because women have this foot in both worlds kind of thing. On the one hand, tradition has told us that the stereotype is women are the nurturers. They stay home. They take care of kids. And that expectation's still there. You're a mother, right? And yet, for many women, they're also called to be professionals. And so it's like, I got to be home all the time. I got to be at work all the time. Home, work, home. You never rest if you give in to those stereotypes as a woman, do you? They're stereotypes, but it's truth in some cases too. There's a whole thing called mom guilt, by the way. Y'all ever heard of mom guilt? Mom guilt is this phenomenon that plagues women who say, I feel like I should be home when I'm at work. It's almost like you're beating yourself up for wanting to be a professional. And the truth is you realize you're stretched thin. How do we as male, female, whoever we are, how do we understand rest as a priority in our life? Not as an afterthought, but a priority. Book of Exodus, we pull it out. One of these classic law passages. The Lord your God worked for 6 days and rested on the seventh. Keep the Sabbath day holy. Keep the day of rest holy. God worked 6 days, rested on the seventh, therefore making the seventh day consecrated as a day of rest. A couple things jump out at me as I read this passage of law. For those of us who are overly busy and think we have to work 7 days a week, when did we fool ourselves into thinking we could be more productive than God? I mean, think about it. God worked 6 days and rested on the seventh. Some of us think that we need 7 days a week to get everything in our life done, that we can't slow down for anything. When did we fool ourselves into thinking we could actually be more productive than God? I mean, God only made the heavens and the earth and did it in 6 days and took a day off. Some of us act like a day off is the furthest thing we could ever ask for. When did that get into the fabric of our society that somehow we could and should be more productive than God? God rested. Why can't we? Which leads me to the deeper question that the text really, I ask, at least that I see it asking. Who's in control of your life? I mean, that's the ultimate question of Sabbath and rest. Who is in control of your life? Is God in control, or are you? Does God control life, or do we? To take a day off, think about this, to take a day off and rest is to lay down all the responsibility we assume to control life and to say, the world will keep turning even if I take a rest. God is in control. I don't have to be. I can rest. Who is in control of your life? And how do you align your priorities to reflect that? Is rest and Sabbath a priority or an afterthought? I got to thinking about it, and I'm a visual learner, and so I feel like I need to maybe offer a visual. I don't know if this will be helpful or not, but imagine this is us, right? Not quite full, but pretty full. Energy, love, time, whatever it may be. There's family, right? They're demanding, sometimes more than they should be. But you pour a little bit into family because you should, right? For those of you who work, there's that. Oh boy. Meetings, to-do list, deadlines. Whoa, right? Work's pretty demanding. Stuff around the house, we try to get to it when we can. What other clubs or boards of directors do you sit on? They need your time. It's a good cause after all, right? Let's give to that. Then there's that project, whatever it is, that we just feel like we're not going to have value in life if we don't get that busy project done. And then we try to do the rounds again over the course of a week. To-do list, work, stuff around the house, boards. And over time we realize, because we never take time to rest, that everything we've got, we've poured out into other things in our busyness. You ever feel that way? I mean, really. Some of us maybe more than others, some of us different times in our life. Sometimes we just reach a point that we just say, I'm absolutely empty. I don't have anything left to give. I have a friend who's a wonderful Sabbath observer, and she has this saying that she says, my Sabbath day is Saturday, and I realized when I failed to take Sabbath on Saturday, not on Saturdays when she realizes it. Guess when she realizes it? Like the following Wednesday. When she's just a little too tightly wound, when she's just a little more tired, when she's just a little edgier than she knows she needs to be, she looks back and realizes, yeah, I should have taken a day off. Should have taken a day off. It's a struggle, though. And I say family is a burden, and families battle this, right? There's the level of being family and together, and then there's just the level of family and being overly busy. Practices and recitals and games and this and that, and you run a carpool service, and it's just everything, always, 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 always. How do you cultivate a family life of Sabbath? Where you just tell the world around you, I don't care what team they're on. I don't care what the activity is. We're just going to be a family for a day and just be. I never appreciated this early on. I love playing baseball. I just thought about this. I love playing baseball. Played for most of my life. And my mother is a character in and of herself. But one of her many rules in life is that we don't do baseball practice on Sundays. Sunday is church day, and it's family day. And it was so embarrassing growing up because every year the season would start, and the older I got, the more Sundays became a practice day, even if it was just going down the batting cages, whatever. And it's not like we could just quietly not show up to practice. My mother made it a point, if she saw on the practice schedule, to tell that coach every year, these Sunday practices, don't expect to see Ben there. That was so embarrassing. I wanted to go play baseball so bad. Funny thing though, now that I'm a parent and we're just starting to get into all this practice schedule and all this other business, how smart she was. Just say no as a family, to enjoy each other and not be in the car and on the road and in front of a screen, to just be. A mentor once told me, he said, Ben, the most important ministry you'll ever do in your life is in your own home. I said, what do you mean? I serve the church and lead a church. He says, all that's important and it will follow, trust me. But the most important ministry in your life is the ministry in your own home. Now, I'll never forget what he said, and those of you Methodist pastors in the room know exactly what I'm talking about. He said, you will think you are the greatest hero that church has ever known, and in 15 years, they'll hardly remember your name. He said, but you know who will remember your name? Your family. You know who will remember that you didn't show up to this event or that event or cancel the vacation? Your kids. The most important ministry you'll ever do, he said, is in your home. And it's when that's healthy, when that's the priority of plugging in and taking rest and caring and loving for what's most important in our life, that our professional, vocational lives only get better. This is too often how we live. But when we take rest and we let God pour into us through devotion, through time with people who matter most, through just idle time of sitting and listening. When was the last time you just sat and were quiet on your porch and just absorbed the glory of God around you? That vacation that you swear you can never take because you don't have time, but when you do, you realize what a gift your life and loved ones are. And all of a sudden, when we take time from being so busy pouring out into everything else and just let God pour into us, we're a little more full, aren't we? Your final challenge. Be less busy. We've been saying all season long this week. I'm not going to tell you 15 minutes a day, but you could break it into 15-minute increments. I'm going to challenge you to a minimum of a half day, if not a full day. Stop. Just stop. You know that old Bob Newhart skit, Stop It? You ever seen that? The lady wants to know how to fix this, all these anxieties in her life, and he's the therapist. He says, stop it. Just stop it. That's the name of the game. You're tired. You're weary. Just stop for a half day or a day. Take a walk. Exercise. Do something meaningful. Spend unstructured time with someone you love. I read a magazine article in Inc. magazine. CEOs, they were studying how they spend their time. Do you know one of the most common characteristics of a major CEO in their scheduling is that they spend time every day unstructured. Like 15 minutes up to an hour of just, I don't take meetings. And they stare out the window. They sit, they meditate, whatever it is. Do you know what that time does? It makes them more creative. You know what you're not when you're overly tired? Creative. Enjoying life. What can you say no to this week to free up the better part of a day so that you can take your roots and sink them a little deeper in the things that matter most, so that you can have your pitcher filled by God? It's up to you. Amen. Hey, thanks for watching the latest sermon here at historic Trinity Church in Savannah, Georgia. I'm Reverend Ben Gostin. I'm the senior pastor here at Trinity Church. And I want to take this opportunity to invite you. If you're ever in Savannah, Georgia, we would love for you to visit us on Sunday morning at 11 o'clock. We're located on Telfair Square, been here since 1848. Also, you can check out the comments below for a way to give if you feel so led. Again, you're welcome anytime here at Trinity Church.